All right, let's go live. Hello, everybody. Sorry, I'm a little behind today. I'm scrambling, trying to get everything done. We've got some guests here. We're having a great time. Had a great hike this morning up one of the mountains here in El Valle in Panama. And so, anyway, I've been scrambling, trying to get everything done for this show. The conflict between the United States and Iran is entering a new phase, and there's been a lot of talk about whether or not there are going to be U.S. boots on the ground. We're getting contrary information from President Trump and from some of his staff, and actually from President Trump over time. He has so far refused to rule out using troops and has even said that he would, that it may be necessary. But Marco Rubio talked about it. And so anyway, we're going to talk all about that today. Over the past 48 hours, the military calculus has evolved from limited airstrikes to active discussions within the U.S. government on whether or not we should seize Kharg Island. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit more about Kharg Island, explain to you what it is and why it's a cornerstone of Iran's economy in just a second. We're also talking about sending troops in to secure Iran's uranium stockpiles. They actually have more uranium than you think that is a threat. And so that may be something that's in the cards coming up very soon. While the coalition currently maintains near total air superiority inside Iran, they've degraded Iranian naval defenses, air defenses, etc., by more than 80%. Still, the potential for a global economic destabilization is massive. And we're going to talk about a couple different indexes that I follow that talk about like, for example, the fear and greed index, that talk about just how incredibly bad things are right now, at least in the outlook for the economy. So before I get started with that, wanted to take care of a couple of notes. Number one, our new editor, Sergio, is over there in the background. You'll see him working away, editing. Because I know you're going to ask, people ask about everything in the shot here around me whenever we go live. And number two, I want to talk about my WSON watch. Time waits for nobody. And when every second counts, you need a watch that stands ready, that's unbreakable and built on truth. The WSON automatic field watch, which is what I'm wearing here from WSON Watch Company, is forged in the tradition of military-grade precision. It's a Swiss-made automatic. The parts are made in Switzerland, but it is put together in the United States, from my understanding. It's got a reliable 25 joule movement and a rugged 316L stainless steel case. It's crystal clear. I wore this thing to church yesterday, and it's really a statement for sure. But it's not just a dress watch. You don't have to keep this band on it. There are other bands like this one, which is a nylon band that I can put on this thing if I want to wear it out hiking or something like that. WSON is not just another watch brand. It's founded by a U.S. Marine veteran, and he stands unapologetically for his faith on social media. This is what drew me to them. I actually reached out to them and asked if they would sponsor our show. I don't normally do that. Usually it's the other way around. But these guys are so unapologetic in their faith, and they're right. They're absolutely right on their politics. And so you can get yours now with free shipping in the continental United States, and get 10% off by going to WSONwatch.com/hot zone. That's WSONwatch.com/hot zone. So compromise, if it's not in your vocabulary, you're going to want a WSON watch. Go check them out. Okay. Thank you to WSON Watches for sponsoring today's podcast. Now, let's talk about the possible seizure of Kharg Island. First of all, what is Kharg Island? Let's go to the maps here. Actually, I got to pull the map up. I forgot to do that. Hang on just a second. Let's go over here to the map, and we'll go look at Kharg Island real quick. It's spelled Kharg, not Karg. And now let me share that. Share my screen. And there we go. Okay. I just have to pull it up. And we are sharing. Okay. Now, Kharg Island is about 25 miles offshore from the Iranian coast right here, which is pretty far north inside the Persian Gulf, or as we call it right now, the Gulf of America, because we've got American ships there in there. Kharg Island processes about 90% of Iran's oil. Up to 7 million barrels a day of oil go through there. And so it's absolutely vital infrastructure for Iran, for their government revenues. The government gets about 40% of their revenues, total revenues, from the petroleum industry in Iran. So what we've seen over the last 48 hours, I didn't do a live yesterday because it was Sunday and I try to take Sunday off, but I have some video of the absolute destruction, if I can find it, of the oil facilities inside. Yeah, there's one. This is an oil facility inside Iran that was struck by the IDF. Take a look. Absolutely apocalyptic. We can turn that guy down. Apocalyptic views there in the background. Now, we have to make a distinction here. The IDF and the United States are not going after the critical oil infrastructure in Iran. They're going after the oil storage facilities in Iran. And that there's a difference, because Iran, once the regime is gone, is going to need their critical infrastructure, pipelines, pumps, all that sort of thing. And they're going to definitely need Kharg Island. So they're not blowing up Kharg Island. They're not blowing up the pipelines and all that sort of thing. They're just getting rid of Iran's current stockpiles of oil, which that means that the current administration inside Iran cannot profit from that oil. Does that make sense? But it's leading to some really apocalyptic scenes inside Iran. As a matter of fact, Tehran, I have a video of Tehran at noon. This is at noon yesterday or Sunday, I think Saturday or Sunday. Whoop, you got to take that other one down. I hate that. Nate, you do that from now on, please. Make sure that one's taken down. And we'll go put this one up. Yeah, there we go. This is Tehran at noon. The smoke in the sky is blotting out the sun. So I'll just freeze frame that so you can kind of take a look at it. That pall of smoke is hanging over most of the large cities in Iran now. There's more and more footage coming out of strikes that are absolutely devastating. IRGC compounds, Bassage headquarters, and police stations, things like that. We're also going to talk about the claims that the United States struck a girls' school with a missile in a little bit later. I'm going to kind of dispel some, give you some context to that, let's say. And so anyway, Kharg Island, very important to Iran. We're not going to bomb it because we want it to be available to them, whatever the new regime will be. But we are floating the idea of putting Marines on shore, or maybe the 82nd Airborne. Apparently, the 82nd had some exercises scheduled, and those exercises were canceled, which sort of hints that the 82nd might be getting ready to get sent over to the Middle East. Now, the 82nd Airborne, if you don't know, their specialty is being able to deploy anywhere on planet Earth in 18 hours. and jump in, parachute in. This would be a possibility on Kharg Island, and taking over areas. So they do like airfield seizures and things like that. Why would the United States want to take over Kharg Island? Well, we want to be able to control it without destroying it. One of the things we're finding out here is that this war is going to get incrementally more difficult for the United States and Israel as time goes on, because accomplishing our goals with bombs alone is near impossible. So we've accomplished the objective of degrading the air defense capabilities of Iran. So as I said, they're more than 80% degraded now. We are very well on our way to destroying Iran's capability to fire missiles at neighboring countries or at Israel, because we're taking out their launchers one after the other after the other. As a matter of fact, I have some footage of that too. This is footage of launchers being destroyed that CENTCOM put out. So you can see there the missiles like cooking off after they were struck. Boom. That ruined somebody's weekend right there. And there's some more. So they're finding these launchers and they're blowing them up on a daily basis. And that means that Iran's capabilities of attacking their neighbors are going down and down and down. Now, you have to make a distinction between the short-range missiles that Iran has and the long-range missiles that Iran has that can reach Israel. We are taking out lots of launchers, but we're taking out short-range and long-range launchers. They are believed to have fewer than 100 long-range launchers left. And that's why most of the missiles that have been fired at Israel over the past 2 days have been in single digits, not hundreds of missiles at a time, just like maybe, 7, 8 missiles at a time, something like that. However, Iran has a lot more short-range missiles and a lot more short-range missile launchers. I saw one report that said they may have up to 11,000 missile launchers, but I don't know if that's true. Maybe not. They don't have quite that many, maybe like 3,500 or something. But nevertheless, they have a lot more short-range launchers that can threaten the UAE and Qatar and Bahrain and Jordan and Kuwait and Iraq and Saudi Arabia and so on and so forth. So they have continued to strike their neighbors, and that is really causing some heartburn with the different countries around Iran. Qatar, actually, I mean, this is amazing. We've always complained about Qatar because they support Hamas, have supported Hamas. They've allowed Hamas leaders to live in Qatar even during the war. They're trying to, make the claim that they're a, reasonable Western facing Arab country when they're funding, or not funding, but maybe funding, and certainly allowing Hamas to operate out of their country. That's sort of a contradiction in terms. Well, apparently they have kicked out the Hamas leaders now because the Hamas leaders refuse to denounce the strikes that Iran has been making against Qatar. So Qatar's like, that's how you show your thanks? All right, you're out of here, and gave them the boot. And I had a video of the Qatari Emir speaking to that and just saying, look, it's obvious to us that Iran had planned this long in advance, because they started striking us immediately when the war started. And so they had launchers aimed at Qatar ready to go all this time. And we've been supporting them. We've been working to help with the negotiations between the Palestinians and Israel. We've been doing all this stuff that, Iran should not have been striking us. And so we are extremely unhappy with Iran. The UAE got struck again. They struck one of the most exclusive high-rise buildings in the world in Dubai, where apartments inside this building is a 90-story apartment building, go for $7 to $10 million each. sometimes more. And the global elite of, oligarchs from Russia and, things like that buy townhouses there or apartments there. And that place got struck. And so that is a huge blow to the economy of the Emirates. It's a blow because a large part of the Emirates economy is made up of these wealthy people that come in because you can live in the UAE without paying any income taxes. That's one of the reasons why rich people like to live there. I mean, other than that, there's not really any reason to live in the UAE because it's a giant sand parking lot that's 9 million degrees all year long. So it's not a comfortable place. I've been to Dubai many times, and it's super fancy. It's very expensive. You can spend $15 on a cup of coffee if you want to. You can go skiing in a mall inside in a ski resort that's indoors. But going from the hotel to the taxi, you're going to get your hair melted off because it's so hot, and it's just not a fun place to live. So the only reason to live there would be the fact that you've got tons of money and you don't want to give it up to the government in taxes, which I totally respect. I think that it just shows how much of a deterrent taxes actually are on economic activity. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. The United States has been degrading the Navy of Iran more and more and more. And at this point, they basically have a couple of dinghies that are left floating, and that's about it. They struck a ship in just offshore of Bandar Abbas. Bandar Abbas is the narrowest point in the, let's see if I think I have that already loaded up. No, I don't have it loaded up. Let me find that video for you. Bandar Abbas, as I said, is the narrowest point of the Strait of Hormuz. And the United States took out I guess I don't have that video. I thought I had downloaded it, but I guess I didn't. There was video out today of a literal combat ship, is what it looked like, of the Iranian Navy on its side, burning and sinking near Bandar Abbas. We also struck 3 Ghost Fleet ships, oil tankers, near Bandar Abbas today as well, according to the reports. So those ones are, at least one of them is confirmed to be on fire. So far, the total Iranian naval losses are about, since the beginning of the war, about 45 ships destroyed or damaged. That's essentially their entire Navy. They don't have much more than that. As far as the aerial campaign goes, heavy strikes are continuing across all major cities in Iran, and Iranian officials. Now, this is funny, and I think I need to make sure that I can show you this photograph because this is hilarious. Let me make sure that I've got this over here where I can show it to you. The Iranian officials are claiming that they captured 173 U.S. troops on their soil on a secret mission. And these are members of the elite Delta Force soldiers. That's part of the special operations community. It's kind of the pinnacle of the special ops community from the United States. And they published a photograph of American soldiers being marched. It looks like they're in handcuffs, and they're being marched, I don't know, somewhere by masked and hooded IRGC soldiers. Now, there's a few problems with this. This is an AI-generated photograph. You can tell that right away without even, looking real closely at the picture or anything, because of that little diamond-shaped icon that's at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. That diamond-shaped icon means this photo was made by Gemini, which is an artificial intelligence that is part of Google. So even if so let's put that aside. Let's say that, I don't know, somebody who doesn't like Iran just pasted that little Gemini icon in there on a real picture. Here's the problem. Number one, Delta Force does not wear uniforms like that. They often don't wear uniforms at all. If they wear any kind of uniform, it might be the uniform of some local militia or, Kurdish Peshmerga or something like that. Delta Force never wears patches on their uniform, ever. You don't see. So you notice these guys in this photo have got patches on their uniforms. Yeah, Delta Force never wears patches and name tapes, especially in combat. They would never, ever do that. I've hung around with Delta quite a bit when I was a Ranger, because we used to do missions together with them. They all have long hair, beards, and they would not wear a patrol cap. There's just so many tells in this picture. So no, the Iranians did not capture 173 members of the elite Delta Force on a mission in Iran. That just didn't happen. Yeah, one guy here is like a 3-star general or something like that. I mean, yeah, that's not a thing. Didn't happen. Okay. And we're going to talk about something else that is causing a lot of consternation. And the mainstream media is all just tripping over themselves to report that the United States struck a girls' school with a Tomahawk missile. They've all done their own independent investigations of this. My friend Preston Stewart did a great video about this, and he believes it. He believes it is very possible that that the United States was responsible for that strike. However, there are some cracks in the facade, so to speak. And so I'm not here to tell you categorically that the United States was not behind that strike, that was not a Tomahawk missile, but I'm going to show you some things that might cause you to doubt a little bit. Okay. I want to go through this little by little here and actually take the time to look at these images and take a good look at what happened. There's a new video that came out that's everybody's saying, aha, this proves it. This proves that it was a Tomahawk missile. I'll show you the video right now. It's a very short video, so I'll probably have to show it to you a couple times. Okay, so yeah, okay, so here's where the video starts. And you can see that there is already smoke rising in the foreground. That smoke is from other strikes on the IRGC naval base that is near where this girls' school was. And as you can see here, if we're going in slow motion, that there's a missile coming in and it goes down and it strikes the ground. And then you see a large cloud of black smoke come up from that strike. Okay, so I'm going in very, very slow, just frame by frame. So again, I'll play it for you in real time. Okay. Now, I want you to look at the angle that this missile is coming in at. It's almost straight down. It's at least a 70% angle, probably steeper than that. Now, if you look closely at the missile, you can see that it has fins amidships, and everybody is pointing to that and saying, oh, that proves that it's a Tomahawk missile. And as a matter of fact, I think I have a freeze frame of that missile as close up as you can get. Yeah, here it is. So where'd it go? Where'd my missile go? There you go. Okay, so there's a close-up of the missile. And this was reported by my friend Matt Tardio just this morning. If you don't follow Matt, you should definitely follow his channel as well. He does daily live broadcasts just like I do, and he's a very, very good first source journalist at parsing these things out. So I can't recommend him highly enough. Anyway, this frame grab here of this missile shows that the missile has fins amidships. But you see the angle it's coming down, and it's almost perpendicular to the ground. Now, first of all, Tomahawk missiles typically strike at an angle, an attack angle of 20 to 40%, or 20 to 40 degrees, sorry, 20 to 40 degrees, which would be much shallower, because if you've seen some of the videos of these things being used during this war, there's a lot of videos from like Syria and places like that, Iraq, where people are videoing these things flying by on their way to Iran. And they fly by just about treetop level, very low. And then they normally would strike at a much shallower angle. For this one to strike at an almost perpendicular angle to the ground means it would have to go way up in the air, several, many miles away from the target, get very high up in the air, and then turn it and come straight down on the target. That is not typically how Tomahawks work. However, actually, there are very few missiles that work that way. However, I have another photograph here. So this picture that shows the fins on the thing, a lot of people are pointing that and saying that's conclusive proof that this is a Tomahawk. Well, let me just show you a comparison of the Tomahawk missile and a Caliber missile, which is a Russian missile. They both have fins halfway down actually the ones on the Caliber missile are a little bit more far forward, and the Tomahawk missile, they're a little further back. So if we go back to, you see these two, you go back to the other, well, it looks like these fins are a little further forward. They're not as far back as the fins on a Tomahawk missile. Okay, so if you switch back and forth between those pictures, you get a sense for perhaps that could be the Caliber is a Russian missile, but the Iranians have their own version of it. And so the very fact that there's fins on that missile does not make it a Tomahawk missile. That's not conclusive proof. And if, again, looking very, very closely at it, Matt Tardio actually had AI look at that screen grab, and the AI came back and said that is likely not a Tomahawk missile because of the location of those fins. Now, it's a grainy screen grab, and so, that's not conclusive, but it's a hint. It's a clue. The other thing, again, going back to the attack angle, is that they're really, neither of those missiles normally attack at an angle that steep. That's not, it's possible they can. Well, the Caliber actually cannot, but think about this. We know that there were already strikes ongoing in the area around this school. And oh, by the way, I want to point out, we don't have proof that the missile that's shown in that video is actually striking the school. We know it's striking in the general area of the school, but that school is literally, it butts up against an IRGC naval base. Okay, so, and as a matter of fact, that school was a part of the IRGC naval base. It was a barracks or something up until about 10 years ago when it was repurposed into a school. So there are a lot of different possibilities here, but I think the most likely possibility, and I think Matt agrees, is that the United States and Israel were jamming GPS signals very heavily in that area to, avoid any air defense radars that are in that area. So there's a ton of electronic jamming happening. The Iranians fire a cruise missile, that thing immediately starts getting jammed, and it falls back to Earth. Now, there is a photograph out there. I don't have it here, but there is a photograph out there that shows a smoke trail coming up from the ground and turning around and going right back down again. So we know that something was fired by the Iranians that was immediately interdicted and was downed through jamming, through electronic jamming, or it was just a dud. But so a picture like that would be consistent. That attack angle would be consistent with a missile that had lost control and was just falling back to Earth. Okay. So look, you can make of this what you like, and you might choose to believe that this was an American strike. You might choose to believe that it wasn't. Let me tell you why that doesn't even matter. Because there's only one side of this conflict that is targeting civilians, and that's Iran. And I mean, you can't make an argument against that, because virtually everything they've hit, not everything, but almost everything they've hit has been civilian infrastructure, high-rise apartment buildings, hotels, airports, international airports, etc. The vast majority of those who have been killed by Iran in this war have been civilians. Iran made it very clear in the weeks leading up to the war by targeting their own civilians, right? So they say that 175 or so girls died at this girls' school, and I don't know if it's true, because they haven't shown any shown any proof of that. But let's assume that it's true. 175 girls were killed at that school. Even if it was the United States, that was a Tomahawk missile that struck the school, there's several things you can know for sure. Number one, we didn't intend to strike the school. There's nobody in the U.S. military that looked at that and said, oh, that's a girls' school. It's going to have girls there in session. Let's kill all those little girls. America doesn't work that way, and neither does Israel. That doesn't happen. So it was not intentionally targeted unless there was just a mistake, and that is possible for sure. But over the last 8 years, over 1 million girls have been under the age of 14 years old, have been married off to men. That's according to Iran's own civil registration data. 1,077,000 child brides have been registered in the last 8 years. Okay, so if you want to know who cares about girls and who doesn't, how about schoolgirls? Well, more than 1,200 schoolgirls have been deliberately poisoned inside Iranian schools since 2023, just in the last 3 years. That's the source for that is from the UN Human Rights Office. That's something that they've been crowing about for a long time. More than 180 girls and women are killed every year in Iran in so-called honor killings. And that number is way underreported. That's a source from an Iranian news agency. They report that femicide is up 60% in the last 2 years. And last but not least, more than 118 children have been killed in violence against the protesters since the regime cracked down on those protests earlier this year. That's from the United Nations. So all these media outlets and all these people who are setting their hair on fire, blaming the United States for this strike on the girls' school, I'll just ask them, where was your outrage when Iran was killing its own girls? Right? It's important to point these things out and give some context. Look, war has consequences. War is destructive. Civilians die in war, always. That's a terrible tragedy whenever it happens. If indeed there were schoolgirls killed in Iran, my heart breaks for their families. No parent should ever have to bury a child. It's, I mean, I pray that that never happens again. But even if it was America, we will determine what went wrong. If somebody was negligent, they will be prosecuted for that. And we will do whatever we can to make sure that that never happens again, because that's who we are. Iran, on the other hand, is doing everything it can to kill as many civilians in Israel as possible, and in the Gulf states as well. Okay? So it's important to have that kind of context in there. Now, the UAE is done playing with Iran. They've seen some of their most valuable buildings struck. They've had people killed. The airport in Dubai was struck multiple times by Iranian drones. And so yesterday, for the first time ever, the United Arab Emirates conducted its first strike on Iranian territory, and they targeted a desalination plant on the Persian Gulf coast. Now, that's a big problem. I don't know if they cleared that with the United States and Israel. They had to have deconflicted with them, meaning they had to have called the United States and said, hey, we're going to have planes in this area conducting a strike, just so that we didn't shoot those planes down, right? Because right now, anything that's flying over Iran is going to be in our sights if it's not one of ours. So they had to deconflict. So we had to have known about it. Now, I don't know if they told America what they were going to strike. If they did, and we said, yeah, go ahead, that's bad. Because look, when you start striking desalination plants, that's crossing a red line. And I want to make a whole video about this, but the bottom line is almost all of the Gulf states, Qatar, Bahrain, Israel, Saudi Arabia, etc., UAE, they all get the vast, vast majority of their water supply that their people use to survive from desalination plants. Desalination plants don't have a lot of air support or air defense assets. They're sitting targets for Iran. And if Iran decides to start targeting desalination plants across the region, they could put millions, tens of millions of people in very dire straits with no water, because that's how they get their water. Back during the Persian Gulf War, the Gulf War I, I don't know if you recall, but Iraq pumped crude oil into the desalination plants in Kuwait and completely destroyed them. It took years for them to come back, and for years they were in a perpetual state of near drought because they were having to truck in water, very expensive, and things like that. They had some mobile desalination plants that were sent in there from the United States and elsewhere to help. But this could be a massive, massive problem if this becomes the new phase of the war. If UAE and Saudi Arabia and everybody starts targeting desalination plants in Iran, and Iran starts targeting them in the Gulf states, you're going to see a huge crisis, because those areas are essentially unlivable without desalination. Jordan gets 40% of its water from Israel that comes from desalination. UAE, Bahrain, Qatar get like 70, 80%, more than 80% of their water from desalination. This could be really, really bad. So we're going to keep an eye on that for sure. There was, unfortunately, another casualty in Israel. A couple that are notable we want to talk about. One was a woman who was killed, and there were several people injured when Iranians fired cluster munitions over Tel Aviv. Now, you've heard me talk about cluster munitions before. They are very difficult, if not impossible. If you don't intercept them before the clusters break up, which is right on reentry into the atmosphere, you're not going to be able to interdict these things. You're not going to be able to intercept them. That's the bad news. The good news is they are fairly small munitions, maybe 12 kilogram at most of explosives. And so they can blow up a car. They can blow up an apartment. They can do a lot of damage, breaking windows and things like that. But they're not going to destroy a city block or an entire apartment building or anything like that. So I wouldn't call, they're more than a nuisance. It's not like tear gas or something. They are deadly. They're very deadly, but they are not going to move the needle in terms of their military import, how much they're going to impact the military of the Israelis, or their ability to carry out attacks on the Israelis. I'm sorry, on the Iranians. Sorry, I got distracted there. Somebody's texting me. So I want to play a video of Secretary of State Marco Rubio talking about why this war is important. Because I talked yesterday or Saturday on the live about this, that look, people that are like America first and America only, like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz and people like that. Now somebody's trying to call me. Good grief, go away. People like that just don't understand how important it is for the United States to have a foreign policy. These are people who would like us to never do anything outside of America. All of our money should stay in America. All of our, we should never fight a war on a foreign soil at all. The only war we should ever fight is when somebody invades us. Well, if you want a quick way to ensure that somebody eventually will, then give up your foreign policy and don't fight them over there. And that is a very, very short-sighted policy. And so Marco Rubio explains why in this clip. Take a listen.
Cameras down there covering what they're doing, as opposed to some of the other images that you may see from some of the cities and capitals nearby. But I want everyone to know your military is getting the job done. And every single day, this regime in Iran has less missiles, has less launchers, their factories work less, and their navy is being eviscerated. And the world is going to be a safer and a better place when this mission is accomplished.
The world is going to be a safer and a better place if this mission is accomplished. I did an interview with a New York radio station this morning, and they asked me about that. Why should Americans care about Iran and about overthrowing the regime there? And that was my answer, is that that will not just make America safer. If you think of all of the thousands of Americans who have been killed or maimed by Iranian weapons, if you think of the hostages that were taken back in 1979, if you think of all of the terror attacks, the Beirut barracks bombing, on and on and on, thousands of attacks over the years, the last 45 years or so. It's kind of a no-brainer. You get rid of the regime that's fomenting all these attacks, and America is a safer place, and so is the rest of the world. So it has the additional merit of being the moral thing to do, to stand up against a regime that is machine gunning its own people. So for many reasons, this is an issue. Now, Rubio in that same interview went on to talk about that we very well may need to put troops on the ground for two reasons: to seize Kharg Island and to secure Iran's stockpiles of enriched uranium. As I mentioned at the beginning, Iran has a lot more enriched uranium than most people realize. You've all heard about the 455 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium that they still have. They apparently can't get to it because it's underground, very, very, very deep underground in a mountain somewhere that we bombed in Isfahan and I believe Natanz, or maybe Fordo. But it doesn't matter. It's still in Iran. And eventually they're going to be able to recover that. And they have enough fissile material to make up to 11 dirty nuclear bombs. So that we can't leave that in Iran. We've got to recover it. And you know what? There's one thing you cannot do with a bomb. It's go recover enriched uranium from 2 miles underground. That would take boots on the ground. Now, for us to send special operations troops in there on the ground to get that highly enriched uranium out of there, it's going to be a serious undertaking. And we don't want to go off half-cocked. We want to be making sure that we do everything in the right order. Right now is not the time to be sending troops in there because we are still degrading the Iranians' capabilities, especially around those areas. So if we send troops in right now, they're likely to get bombed to smithereens because Iran still has the capability to bomb short range, right? And so we've got to continue to degrade their ability to launch missiles and rockets and things like that. Once that is accomplished, and that may take another 3 weeks, then we might see a ground operation of some sort. Again, it's going to be very targeted, very limited. It's not going to be, Marines storming the shores of, well, I mean, Iran doesn't have a lot of shores, but you know what I'm talking about. Storming a shore at Bandar Abbas or something. It's just not likely that we're going to have tons of troops on the ground for a long period of time. They would go in, they would do the job, they would get out. Okay, I'm okay with that. Most Americans, I think, if it's explained that way, would also be like, yeah, okay. I mean, that's what those special ops guys signed up for, and they're really, really good at it. We saw what they did in Venezuela. So, yeah, let's let them go in and recover that enriched uranium. Problem is, we don't exactly know where it is. We believe it's underground in those nuclear facilities that we bombed before. We collapsed the entrances, but we didn't completely destroy all the tunnels. But the IAEA lost chain of control of that stuff long ago. And so it could be in China or Russia. It could be spread out all over the place. We just don't know. So I think that we're not to the point yet where we're going to be sending troops in there, but that may happen at some point in the near future. Okay. Now, all these strikes in the United States has done on the Navy of Iran and the strikes against ghost fleet ships in the Strait of Hormuz, the administration, Trump administration, is saying that the Strait of Hormuz is open and it's open for business. And the United States Foreign Development Bank will insure your ship if you need to take it through the straits. And we'll even send a naval destroyer of ours along to escort you to make sure you don't have any problems. Well, that's nice. And all of that is certainly meant to try to head off a massive spike in the price of oil. However, one of the constraints about seizing that Kharg Island is that it could easily spike Brent crude to $150 a barrel or higher. And you get oil that high and you trigger a global recession. That's going to be bad. We're already getting close. We're heading that direction. If you look, I go over and share my screen again. There is oil price. There we go. Share this tab. If we look at oil prices right now, oil prices spiked to 120 earlier today, 116 earlier today. And now they've come back down and they're sitting about 96. The reason for that spike was because the oil markets don't trade over the weekend, and there was a lot of pent up angst, I think, that drove the price up when the market opened. And then people started looking at, okay, the Trump administration is the problem that a lot of these ships have is they can't get insurance in the regular way they get insurance, because those insurance companies are looking at what's going on. And even if the entire Navy of the Iranians has been sunk, even if we get rid of all their missiles, the way that those pipe cleaner neck actuary guys figure out what to charge for insurance is by coming up with a number of incidents per square kilometer or whatever, number of risk incidents per square kilometer in the Strait of Hormuz. And every time the United States bombs an Iranian Navy vessel, that's another incident. Every time the U.S. bombs a Ghost Fleet tanker, that's another incident. So we're kind of working against ourselves in a way, because we are making it so that there's no insurance company in the world that will provide insurance for ships to go through the Strait of Hormuz. And so the United States, it has to do it. And they've set aside $22 billion to insure, or to pay out losses, to insure against losses, probably because we believe we wouldn't have to pay that much out. We're just putting that big number up there to sort of impress everybody and hope that they will agree to take insurance through the United States Foreign Development Bank, and then go through start taking oil back through. But what we're seeing right now is not encouraging. The traffic through the Strait of Hormuz is down about 90%. The UAE has reduced the amount of oil that they're outputting. Qatar, Kuwait, all of them are scaling back because they're getting their oil facilities struck as well. Saudi Arabia has had several struck. So the ships that would need to go through the Strait of Hormuz so far are just not willing to do so, to make oil come back down. And I was asked on that radio interview today, what about the price of gasoline? It's gone up, 60 cents a gallon since the war started. I mean, should Americans be paying for this problem? And I said, absolutely. I mean, there's a saying that I learned a long time ago, that the tree of liberty must be watered from time to time. And it talked about the tree of liberty being watered with blood. And I think that's true, that liberty is only worth keeping if we're willing to sacrifice to keep it. And so paying an extra 60 cents a gallon at the pump, that's bad. It's no fun. It's going to put a strain on a lot of Americans. But I would say it's eminently worth it if we succeed. We have a once in a generation opportunity to remove the threat from Iran, that will remove the threat from Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis in Sudan, in Somalia, in Europe, and in the United States. As a matter of fact, there's an article out today. Maybe I can share this one. Nate, you can put this one up. This is from ABC News. Can you share that one, Nate? I got to share this tab. There we go. Now you can put it up there. This is an article from ABC News. Says Iran may be activating sleeper cells outside the country. And this is says the U.S. has intercepted encrypted communications believed to have originated in Iran that may serve as an operational trigger for sleeper assets outside the country, according to federal government alert sent to law enforcement agencies. The alert, reviewed by ABC News, cites preliminary signals analysis of a transmission likely of Iranian origin that was relayed across multiple countries shortly after the death of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. He died on February 28th. The intercepted transmission was encoded and appeared to be destined for clandestine recipients who possess the encryption key, a kind of message intended to impart instructions to covert operatives or sleeper assets without the use of internet or cellular networks. It's possible the transmissions could be intended to activate or provide instructions to prepositioned sleeper assets operating outside of Iran. And the exact contents of the transmissions cannot be determined because they're encoded. The sudden appearance of a new station with international rebroadcast characteristics warrants heightened situational awareness. Okay, so they're not talking specifically about the United States. They could be talking about Europe. They could be talking about the U.S. But the bottom line is, it is a threat. Iran is still dangerous, even as they are being dismantled inside their own country. And so we need to be aware of that. We need to be prepared for that. And let's hope that any law enforcement officers are able to head off any attacks before they happen. Now, last but not least, Israel is mounting a major ground operation inside Lebanon. So this is ramping up. They just had a IDF soldier that was killed there yesterday. That brings the total, I think, to 2 IDF soldiers who have been killed inside Lebanon. This is from the IDF showing the ground operations and incursions into Lebanon. So this is growing. This whole operation and the war is continuing to roll out. All right, that was a lot to get through. Let's go to our questions today. Thank you for being a new member, Marilyn. Appreciate you. Folks, I just want to say, look, we got more than 3,000 people watching. If you would go to chuckholton.com, you'll get lots of extra content over there, behind the scenes stuff, summaries in writing of these lives I do every day, early access to some of our special reports, and monthly phone calls with yours truly. So go to chuckholton.com and become a supporter over there. That's how we pay for this. Okay. We are able to maintain our staff, like our great Sergio over there. Wave, Sergio. He's not listening. He's got his earphones in. By people supporting the channel over at chuckholton.com. And you get a lot of benefits out of that. So I appreciate all of you who become members here on YouTube and who become members over at Locals. Tim sent some money. Tim is a new member. Thank you very much. He lives in West Virginia. Thank you for what you do, and any more info on boots on the ground about in the Kurds. Well, buddy, the Trump administration, President Trump himself, had been saying that, yeah, I think maybe the Kurds should go in. And then he came out and said, no, I think I've changed my mind. That would far too much complicate things. So I really don't want the Kurds to go in. So the Kurds going in from Iraq are off the table for the time being. As a matter of fact, the Iraqi government has sent troops up to the border to keep the Kurds from crossing into Iran with weapons. So that I think that's kind of at least on hold right now. Where can I get a shirt like that you have on now? It looks awesome. This is a Free Burma Rangers shirt. You can't buy these things. You have to earn them by being a part of the Free Burma Rangers. So I've been a member of the Free Burma Rangers for 14 years, maybe something like that. And I have a whole bunch of these shirts because when we're on mission, we always get new ones. So sorry, you can't buy one like that. Next. Where is the pumped oil going to go if no storage facilities? Yeah, that's a good question. That means they would have to shut off their oil pumps, and those things are not easily restarted. And however, if a new regime comes into power that is friendly to the United States, I'm sure we would send our experts over there to help them restart their pumps, so they would be able to do it. But that presents a major dilemma for the current regime, because if they shut off their pumps, they're not starting them up again. Next. You have to have a place to store pumping oil, or else you have to. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right, John. Good point. Next. Do you think Trump will take out the new head of the IRGC? Yeah, they just announced the new leader of the IRGC. As a matter of fact, I have a video of that somewhere. Let's see if I can bring that up. The new leader was just announced, and where in the world did I put all these videos? I'm not seeing them. His name is Mujtaba Khamenei. Mujtaba Khamenei. He's the former Ayatollah's son. And let's just say that he probably shouldn't spend a lot of money redecorating his new office because he's likely not going to survive long enough. As a matter of fact, I read today that he has already been injured in an airstrike by the United States. And you can bet the U.S. and Israel are gunning for him as we speak. So could Mujtaba Khamenei be dead and his name and image just being used as a clever decoy to buy the IRGC time? How would that buy them time? I'm not sure how that would buy them time. I mean, there is a Babylon Bee joke meme floating around that the Iranians appointed a new Ayatollah who's dead just to save time. But that's just a joke. I don't know that it would save them any time. It just might save the life of whoever they designate as the new leader. And there are some rumors floating around that he was killed today, but those are not in any way corroborated yet. So we'll have to wait and see. But I would just, as I said, he shouldn't be taking out any 30-year mortgages anytime soon, right? Next. Trump scoffed at the question of Russia aiding Iran with intelligence. What do you think he did? And was that accurate? I'm confused by his reaction. Well, I am confused by his reaction too, and actually saddened by it, because it is a direct threat to the United States if China and Russia are providing intel to Iran. And we should be very firm in our denunciation and maybe even kinetic complaints sent their way for that. However, he and Pete Hegseth both made the point that we know exactly what they are providing to the world, and it's not anything that's not already available through open source intelligence. So, there are several satellite agencies that have their own satellites up there taking photographs of the whole globe every day. And I can buy it. You can buy it. You just go online, you tell them what place what area you want to buy, and you buy the footage from that area. You can do that and get very high definition footage, or not footage, but photographs of any place on planet Earth through these commercial things. Now, China has their own spy satellite network, and so does Russia. And so maybe what the point they're making is that the meter resolution of the photographs that Russia is providing to Iran, or the locations they're providing to Iran, are no better than what you can get in open source. And so it's essentially information that's already out there anyway. There's a private Chinese company, which is kind of a contradiction in terms. I mean, any Chinese company is actually not private, but it's not an official CCP company that is not only providing aerial imagery of American bases, American troop concentrations, ships at sea, all that stuff, and providing the locations of that, but they're running it through an AI that marks everything and says what it is. And then they're just putting it out on the open internet. Now, that is a ploy to get that information into the hands of the IRGC's 31 separate provincial commands. The IRGC, the way it's set up, is they have 31 commands, and in the time of war, they knew that their communications would be degraded by the enemy. And so they made all 31 of those provincial commands completely autonomous once a war starts. They can make their own targeting decisions and such. But the problem with that is, how do you know what to target if you're blind and deaf? Like, you got no comms. How do you know what to target? Well, they do have internet, Starlink, and they have confiscated Starlink internet things. And so they can get the internet. So if this Chinese company is posting these photographs on the open internet for anybody, they're really doing it to give it to the IRGC, so the IRGC will know what to bomb. And we should be taking a very hard stand against China and Russia for doing that. But we're not, and it's unfortunate. That's one thing I'm disappointed in President Trump about. Okay, next question. Let's move this over here. Do you think the Burj Khalifa will or has been targeted? I think it has been. It has not been struck. They've intercepted drones that were trying to hit the Burj Khalifa. And that's the largest building in the world, tallest building in the world. Next. Is Kharg Island facility that goes boom with one missile drone? No. But if the United States takes it over, that's a definite risk, is that Iran will start targeting that facility, and kind of, if they see that their fate is sealed and they're not going to be able to survive, it's not out of the realm of possibility that Iran tries to blow it up themselves. Next. About the missile hoax, isn't this the same tactics Hamas did right after October 7th when they blamed Israel for bombing a church in Gaza? Yes, absolutely. It is. And like I said, doesn't matter. Really, in the long run, doesn't matter. If the United States did it, they're going to figure out why and make sure it never happens again. If Iran did it, they don't care. And that's the difference. Okay, next. You have the haircut and the shirt. Did you serve? Yeah, I served 8 years, 4 of them in the 75th Ranger Regiment, and 4 of them flying helicopters for the Wisconsin Army National Guard. So yeah, I served. Next, are there still innocent civilians being killed by the IRGC, or focus more on this war now? They are focusing more on this war now. The civilians that were out protesting, by and large, are staying home because they're being asked to stay home by the United States and Israel. And we've told them, we will tell you when it's safe for you to come out and protest again, but let us do our work first. Okay, next. Question for Chuck. I enjoy your reporting. Can you give your military expertise on the military campaign that the U.S. is conducting? What changes would you make to operations? Thanks. I think that so far the military operation is going absolutely according to plan. I think that if I was president and the commander in chief, I might actually order some sort of ground incursion like we're talking about to recover the uranium and that sort of thing, but I wouldn't be doing it yet. So I don't have a lot of criticism for the way this war is being fought so far. Next. Can you tell the right government person there's 30 plus civilian Iranian owned ships on open seas the U.S. Navy could confiscate? They know that. Yeah, that comes from Sal Mercogliano. I guarantee you we know where they are. And why we're not taking them, I don't know. But we're not yet. Next. Would it be advantageous to the U.S. and Israel to hand the cleanup phase of subduing the regime to Iran's neighbors? I don't think Iran's neighbors would really be willing to do that. Especially if you're talking about them sending their own ground troops in, I think it's going to have to come from within Iran itself. And that's a big challenge for sure. Next. Did all the Gulf states get their desalination plants from Israel? Some of them did get the technology from Israel for that. I don't think all of them did. Some of them developed it on their own. Some statements have been made by Iran that a desalination plant on Kharq Island was struck by U.S. or Israel. Well, that's apparently false. It was struck by the UAE, according to clarified reports now. Next. Do you think we should keep all 3 carriers deployed and use one group strictly to reopen the strait? I think the Ford needs to be brought home soon. but maybe a little longer just for the Strait. Well, we have, they keep saying we have 3 carriers just deployed, but the 3rd carrier is still like 6,000 miles away. And Yokosuka, is that how you say that? Island in Japan. So it's it's more there to be a deterrent to China than it is to participate in this conflict. I don't see how the George H.W. Bush is participating in this conflict yet. It's 10 to 12 days away from the CENTCOM area of operations. So maybe I'm wrong on that. I've been wrong on that. I was wrong on something on the last live. Somebody asked about the Shield of the Americas, and I took it to mean the Golden Dome project when it's actually a cooperative that the president put together of Latin American leaders to go after cartels in the Western Hemisphere. I'm going to make a whole video on that soon, but I was wrong about that. I've talked for 5 minutes about the Golden Dome, and they weren't asking about the Golden Dome, but I wasn't aware because that thing had just been announced while I was live. Okay, next. Will this region ever make peace or find common ground with the whole Sunni versus Shia animosity toward each other? Probably not. Next. Is there a future peaceful Israel without dealing with the West Bank issue or potentially occupying or annexing it? Not without that. No, there's not. Next. Why are our prices up? Aren't we the #1 producer of oil right now? We are. The prices are up because of speculation that the supply chain is being disrupted on the front end, but it's not been disrupted on the back end yet. But they're looking ahead and they're saying, maybe it's going to get disrupted, so we better start hiking prices now. That's why. Do you know if we have any subs in the area? We do. Yes, we do. Next. Have you heard whether Russia's provision of intelligence to Iran has led to a reevaluation of our ambivalent policy toward Ukraine? Apparently not, although the United States reached out to Ukraine and said, pretty please, could you bring us some of your interceptor drones so we can intercept these Shahed drones that are taking out our military bases and stuff? Pretty please and thank you. Sounds now like Ukraine has the cards and the United States needs them. Go figure. Next. Did y'all see it raining oil in Iran last night? No, I didn't see that, but I saw where the streets were catching fire because they were running with oil. That was interesting. I was told the U.S. military ships have been hit and damaged. Is that true? No, it's not. CENTCOM has made very clear no ships have been hit. If Iran cantonizes along communal lines, what will be the effects, economic and otherwise? Well, if they balkanize and split up into multiple independently run states, even if they're still called Iran, that weakens their ability to threaten their neighbors. And I think the United States should actually be on board with that if that's what they wanted to do. But it's up to them. Tim Shelton, thanks for being a new member. And do you think U.S. and Israel are not striking the bunker or moving mobile commands of Iran leaders out of choice, not because they don't know where or can't? That's a strangely worded question. Believe me, the United States and Israel are striking every command post they can find. If they know it's there, they're striking it. Okay. Maryland's a new member. Tim Shelton's a new member. Thank you very much. Scooter says, why wouldn't the U.S. want a permanent base along the strait? Thank you for the $7, by the way. We have a permanent base along the strait. We have one in, we have bases in UAE. We have bases in Qatar. Those are right there, right there. So we have one in Bahrain. That's right there. We do. Okay, next. What radio interview were you on today? Hi, Diane. Good to see you. It was Family Life Radio in New York State. There's 7-8 million people listen to that. Not a big deal. All right, that's it for questions today. Thank you very much for all of you who asked the questions and for continuing to stay online while we answer them. I appreciate all of you. Do me a favor. And if you have a son or a grandson who's looking for something fun to do this summer, check out our Frontier Forge website. Go to frontierforge.org. We are doing a field leadership course for young men ages 13 to 17 or so coming up in August. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be led by yours truly. A couple of my sons will be there. Actually, all of my sons will be there. A bunch of very godly men to mentor your sons. And we're going to be doing some really cool stuff, rappelling and land navigation and wilderness survival and all kinds of fun things. So go to frontierforge.org and check that out. I appreciate all of you. Don't forget to visit our sponsor, WSON Watches here. Get one of these. I think they're back in stock now. Really awesome automatic watch. So check them out. All right. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.